Hi everyone, I don't know if you heard, but there was a massive earthquake in Osaka that hit today, this morning at 7:58 a.m. So my prefecture is Hyogo Prefecture, it's right next to Osaka Prefecture. So I just want to say I'm okay, but some issues happened, so I want to tell you about it. I think it's important that you know, because it's like actually quite a cultural lesson, because we don't have earthquakes in Australia, so we do, but like they're like nothing compared to in Japan. So I just want to teach you about it. So firstly, Japan is in the Pacific Ring of Fire, which basically means that it's prone to earthquakes. The Pacific Ring of Fire is an area of the world where about 80 to 85% of earthquakes occur. So Japan is very prone to earthquakes. Japan has earthquakes almost every day, but usually they're so tiny that you just feel it like very, very, like, not, it's basically nothing. It's just like, oh, the earth is shaking a tiny bit, okay, whatever. But Japan has like a big earthquake every sort of year or every 6 months kind of thing, where some damage occurs just because it's on the Pacific Ring of Fire, so it can't be helped. So today, this morning, in Takatsuki, which is 20 minutes out of Osaka, it's northern part of Osaka, an earthquake magnitude 6.1 on the Richter scale hit, and the epicenter is Takatsuki, and it was 13 kilometers under. So because I'm in Hyogo Prefecture, it's the prefecture next to Osaka, so of course we felt the tremors a lot. Hyogo has been classed as code 5, and it's red, which basically means that we could suffer aftershocks tomorrow or the next day, and we have to be really careful. So the sort of problems that have occurred is, one, fires have broken out, and the fire brigade has been called in all around the Osaka area, the greater Osaka area, because a lot of people were obviously cooking around that time, so fires have spread. Secondly, trains and subways have all been cancelled in Osaka and surrounding areas, so West JR and western part of Japan, all the trains, subway, have all been cancelled. So that means a lot of people were stranded and had to either take a taxi to work or walk to work or just not go to work. And you know, Japanese people, they love to go to work, so they probably took a taxi or walked. One of my colleagues, he walked for 2 hours to get to work, and he was like, oh, I'm at work now, normally it takes me like 10 minutes, but I walk to work, yay. So another thing that's happened is the expressway that connects Osaka to the airport has been closed, so a lot of people obviously miss their flights. And also 170,000 homes are without power and gas. Now, because I'm not in the Osaka prefecture, I'm in the prefecture next to it, there's electricity, but I have no gas. So Osaka Gas, which provides gas to this whole area, has shut down. So I have no gas, so I can't cook, I can't have a shower because my water is heated by gas, and I'm just gonna have to wait to see what happens. I hope I have gas tomorrow. I would really like to have some food, you know. I don't know how to cook without gas. My hot plate is run by gas, so I'll probably just have to microwave something. Yay, exciting. Not okay. In terms of injuries and deaths, 73 people have been confirmed injured, and there's been 10 people confirmed missing. For deaths, 3 people have died so far. 2 old people, 2 elderly men in their 80s, they were crushed, and 1 little girl, she was 9, a wall fell on her, so her ribs all broke, and then her lungs were punctured and she died. So it's very tragic because, you know, she's very young. Obviously older men in their 80s, of course, very tragic as well. But I think it would be terrible if I was the parent of the 9-year-old who died. So Hyogo Prefecture, my prefecture, is, as I said before, code red, number 5, which means there could be aftershocks tomorrow or the next day. So we've been warned to make a pack and carry some food that's you can eat without having to cook, medicines, water, toilet paper, those kind of emergency rations. And we've been told to make a pack because in case the aftershocks like block off certain things or we can't leave our houses, then we need to be able to have food and water that'll last us for at least 3 days. So as you may or may not know, there was a huge earthquake in 1995 in Kobe, which is very close to me. It was called Hanshin Awaji Daishinsai, and that earthquake killed more than 6,000 people, and so a lot of my colleagues suffered through that earthquake. That was in 1995, and so they were comparing it to today's earthquake, and they were like, oh yeah, the feeling was the same. So I want to talk about my personal experience now that I've talked about the general experience. So this morning at 7:58, I felt the tremors, and I don't know what, but I was pretty rational, and I was like, okay, it's an earthquake, so I have to squat on the ground and cover my head. So all Japanese students, when they're little, when they're like 5 or 6, the first thing they learn in school is how to survive an earthquake, because as I said before, Japan suffers earthquakes all the time, so it's basically like common sense. You got to know how to deal with it. So basically, you need to crouch on the ground. You need to put your legs like this and your head like this, and cover your head like this, and then you have to wait it out. So that's what I did, and I was pretty proud of myself. I was like, wow, like I was rational, even though it was like terrifying. Okay, my house is very old, so I live in a apartment complex which is quite old, and I also live on the 5th floor. It's the highest floor, and my apartment complex has not been fortified for earthquakes. Newer apartment complexes have been fortified for earthquakes, but mine has not. So because I'm on the highest level, my building was like really shaking, and I remember I like did the whole squatting down and covering my head, and I just had all this stuff falling around me. I could hear my cupboard opening and plates just falling, books falling, clothes. I had like a whole bunch of clothes in a basket. Just the basket fell over, and all these clothes spewed everywhere. And I had a cup of tea above on a table, and it just fell, and all this tea fell everywhere. It was really scary. Obviously, it's my first experience of a proper earthquake. I have experienced the smaller earthquakes where they're like these little tremors, like you have them almost, once a week or whatever. It's nothing, but this is 6.1 on the Richter scale, so it was really scary. I was really scared, and some glass fell on me as well. I didn't hurt myself at all, but yeah, I had like a plastic thing fall on my head, like a Tupperware fell on my head, and just like some bottles fell on my shoulders and stuff. But yeah, I had my head covered, so that was good. I did get cut by glass, but it's totally fine. Like it's this tiny little piece of glass. So I just remember feeling terrified that I couldn't hold on to anything because the ground was shaking, like everywhere was shaking. You can't hold on to anything, right? So I was so scared, but I'm really proud of myself for actually being rational enough to follow earthquake procedure and cover my head. So in Japan, they have this little thing. They have a warning that comes onto your phone, and it says "jishin desu," which means it's an earthquake, and you get a little notification on your phone. So that's pretty good because it means that you need to switch your gas off, switch electricity off, and check the weather warnings, which is what I did. But there was no electricity or gas, okay, because I switched it off, and then I switched it back on, and nothing was coming, so I was like, okay. And then I checked the meteorological website, the Japan Meteorological Agency website, and it was like, okay, code red for my prefecture. So I was like, oh my god. Anyway, so I went to school, I went outside, I walked outside, and there was nothing. Nothing had happened, no power lines fallen or anything. And then when I got to school, I talked to my colleagues, and they were like, oh yeah, like the epicenter is in this place, and it's 30 minutes from where I live, so it's not very far, but it's also not very close. So we were lucky, obviously. And upon arrival, all the students were told to go to the oval, not to go to the classroom, and we had somebody come to our school to check the school to make sure it's safe for the students. So they had to wait on the oval, and then we all moved to the gym, and then the homeroom teacher checked each student to make sure they were there. About 100 students couldn't come to school because, as I said before, the train services had stopped. So a lot of people were just stranded in train stations. So they were all like calling, the homeroom teacher was calling their students, like, where are you? Are you alive? So yeah, we were, so as I said, 7:58 the earthquake happened, and then the building was checked, and by 10 o'clock it was safe, so we could come back in. And so we were pretty much stranded for 2 hours in the gym. Just, there was nothing to do. And a lot of classes were cancelled this morning, and that was obviously not only my school. A lot of schools either shut down completely or they had only afternoon classes. And people couldn't use toilets. If they were taking the train at 7:58, all train services stopped, and then you couldn't leave the train until they checked the surrounding area to make sure it was safe. So people couldn't use toilets for 2 hours. So train attendants were giving plastic bags to people and telling them, okay, you know the space between wagons, please go there and come back there. So that was really awkward. So the final comments that I can say is there's no gas for me in my house, so I can't cook, I can't have a shower, and I don't know what's happening. I checked the gas website, there's no information, so I'm like, please, I need gas, so please come back on as soon as possible. I've got running water and I have electricity, which I'm lucky about, but people in Takatsuki, which is the epicenter, they don't have electricity or water. A lot of pipes burst around there, so there's been floods, there's fires, and obviously buildings have just fallen on people and injured them, so I think a lot of people have gone to hospital. So it's pretty dire, it's pretty scary. It's my first experience of an earthquake, but I'm okay, and I just want to say thank you to all the people who send me messages. I'm going to keep you updated with what happens, but luckily everyone at my school is fine, and nothing major has happened to any of the people that I know. But it was a terrifying experience. It was really scary, I'm not lying, and I do feel really sorry about the 3 people who died, especially about the little girl. So I just want to thank everyone for their messages. Okay, and I hope you learned something about earthquake culture in Japan. Bye.